What's going on, guys? Big welcome to you all to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta. You're here with D-Boy. So we are on the final episode of the Premium Collection 2019, and today, or actually yesterday, all of the cards have been revealed. Because of that, I wanted to make you guys a video to talk about these reveals, but because there are so much reveals, I tried to make two different videos, but now I think I'll make one. It's better. Alright, so the cards with the red cross on them, as in the last episodes, are the cards that we have covered up in this video, and the cards that have nothing on them are the cards that we'll cover in this one. So without further ado, let's just start with the video. First of all, because the whole set have been revealed, we thought, what could the double rares be? And in this set, the double rares, all of them are critical triggers that have almost the same ability as the older critical triggers that we had in the G era that needs a specific name for the Vanguard to go into the soul, throw your card and give your Vanguard an extra 5k. These do not need a specific grade 3 to activate the ability. The only thing that they need is GB1, and then when your Vanguard attacks, they give the Vanguard the extra 10k, they go into the soul, and you draw a card. So that's pretty good. You just have them in your deck, and they are a bit better than a V-crit because they also have the 15k shield and the 10k power that they could give. Their normal power is 4k, not 5k, so that's only the downside, and their skill is GB restricted, but I think they're great. Also, the art on some of them looks amazing, while on others looks hideous. So let's go into the next one, which is the first reveal of today. It's the Progenitor Dragon for the Megalonic clans, and this one is different than the others because this one is a finisher, while the others were more like a setup card. So what this card does is, whenever your opponent puts a Guardian on the Guardian circle, you could discard a grade 1 or less card from your hand and you retire that Guardian. So it's amazing to use in Bermuda Triangle because, as I said, it's more of a finisher, and also in like Granblue and Aquaforce, which you attack a lot, are clans that could abuse this card. But I would say this is perfect for Bermuda because Bermuda has a huge hand, and at the same time, Bermuda really didn't need this skill that you could strat for free because Angie kind of already does it. So yeah, I think is more made for Bermuda than the other two clans, but again, the other clans could use it a lot because they are also clans that could multi-attack like crazy. Alright, now then we have the other Progenitor Dragon. This is, in my opinion, the most interesting card of the whole set, which introduced something to the game that's a bit different. Let's read the ability as how it was written, and then I will explain it to you guys in what this would mean. Okay. When placed, you discard 2 cards from your hand, and for 1 time during the next turn, when you would lose, return all of the cards from your hand and damage zone to your deck, shuffle your deck, put the top 5 cards from your deck into the damage zone, and that turn ends instead. So basically, whenever you would have to go into a stride, and you know that it doesn't matter which stride you go into because your opponent could finish you off on the next turn, you could go into this card. When you go into this card, the cost is heavy, which is a discard of 2, but it doesn't cost Counter Blast or Soul Blast, so just cards from your hand. And then whenever you are gonna lose, so let's say you're going against Zoa, you're going against Glendios, you're going against Gize, or you're going against the deck that could attack like crazy, you could just go into this card, and because of that you will not lose, but only once. And what they mean with that is, let's say that you're on 5 damage and your opponent attacks you with a critical trigger. When you take the 6 damage, you lose, and then this card skill will activate, and that will end your opponent's turn, but you have to still take 1 more damage. So even if this card gives you 5 face-up damage in your G-zone, you have to take 1, which puts you at 6, and you would lose again. But this card only lets you survive the first time you lose, so you would lose anyway. So it has a nice interaction with a lot of different cards, and I think it's very interesting that we should have made this card. and I don't want to go too deep into talking about it. I could do a whole video to talk about this, but we have a lot of reveals left. So insane good card, not the best one of the whole set, but definitely the most interesting with the Gastile Stride, I would say. Alright, now I put those not at random, I put them like from the worst to the best, the strides, but it's not really that accurate. It's like I just had some fun with them and I wouldn't want to put them by random. So in my opinion, for these reviews, so not for the whole set. So in my opinion, we have Conquest, as from all of these reveals that we've got yesterday, in my opinion is the less effective of them all. And I will tell you why. The first thing why this card is less effective, it's not good as a first stride. Well, it's okay as a first stride, but when the game progresses, this would become better and better. So what he does, it's a Thunder Strike skill, so again it's nice to get the keywords back, and then you turn a card face up from your G-Zone, so it doesn't cost you Counterblast, but you do have to discard a card from your hand, which is an interesting thing, because I don't know why. But then, you choose the same number of your opponent's rare cards as face-up cards from your G-Zone, you retire them, and then you bind them. And all of your units get plus 1k for each card in your opponent's bind zone, if your opponent's bind zone has 7 or more cards. Until the end of turn, this unit gets an extra drive check, and if they have 10 or more, it gets an extra critical. Critical, drive check, a lot of power to your field is something that Murakami already did, but this card does it better. With the Excel circles, even more. You can bind a lot, but again you have to retire them, then bind them, which is bad. If this card would say just straightforward, bind them, that would have been better. But I think it's a great ability. It's a very good ability, but it's not on the same level as some of the other strides that we got in this set, and that's why I'm gonna talk about this card first. Alright, next one that we have is History Build Dragon. First of all, great choice from Bustard to remake History Maker Dragon. The thing is, at one time in the G era, we had Time Leap, and Time Leap was the best tier 0 deck that we had at the moment, or then, and it's the only era in Vanguard that a tier 0 deck was so much better than the other decks that it was really hard to win against, and you would see it at the top a lot. And there you had the Big Five. The Big Five, one of these Big Five was History Maker Dragon, and that's why I think it's great that they remade this card. Alright, what it does is on Vanguard and G-Zone, if this card is face up, you give all the units with the time limit ability extra 3k. So if you have 2 of this face up, you get 3k for each, because it's a continuous ability. It works on Vanguard and G-Zone. I'm thinking that Bustard is trying to make a lot of those G-Zone abilities. In my opinion, they are great. We already have seen that from Gens a lot, but now we see that in the Premium Collection as well. So the second ability, which is actually the main ability of the card, it's Time Leap ability, Auto, Vanguard. When this unit attacks, cost, Soul Blast, turn something from your G-Zone face up, and then you could Time Leap as much rare cards as cards you have face up in your G-Zone. So pretty much, you have a lot of Time Leap abilities. If you use it first, as a first stride, you can only Time Leap 1, but again, if you use it later on in the game, you could Time Leap even more. And this is also the reason why I think it's a bit less effective, because the other strides are way more intense in a sense. But for the timely players, I think that this is the best that they could have asked for, because give a lot of power, so your timely abilities or units could now hit. The Melem that hits for 11 could now hit for 14, even more, because just with only one face up it could hit the force. But if you have like 2 of this face up in your G-Zone and you stride him, so it's the third one, then you could already give them a 9k, which could hit 20, and with 12 they could even hit the 23, like your Melems, with having 4 cards of this face up in the G-Zone. So that's insane. Yeah, I think it's a great card. I think there is more about the history of the card than the card itself, but again, what it does for the Time Leap deck, perfect. Alright, then we have the one from Great Nature, which has a interesting ability as well, but I think that it could have been a little bit more. The thing is, it has two abilities. The first one is a cost, which is an act ability, a counterblast of 1, you turn something from your G-zone, face up, and then you put a card from the top of your deck to the drop zone 4 times. And if it's normal units, you give one of your units an extra 10k. If it's a critical or a trigger unit, this card gets an extra drive check. Until, of course, that skill activates 4 times. Then the second ability is a G-zone ability, and if your Vanguard attacks, then you can Soul Blast 1 and call something from your hand. The second ability is really interesting. I didn't expect Great Nature to get that kind of an ability, but I could understand that you sometimes want to call middle in the battle phase. There would be some strange interactions with like on-place abilities, but most of all, it's just an extra attacker that you could put on an Excel circle. The first ability, on the other hand, is better than some people would think, because Great Nature, of course, could multi-attack by restanding some of their rare guards. And if you give that much power to one of the rare guards that, let's say, have a resist ability, or could attack from the back row, or just have a resist ability and staying on an Excel circle, then you could restand that rare guard multiple times. And with this card having maybe 1 or 2 extra drive checks, that would mean that you could give the critical triggers that you get from your drive check to that unit as well, and because of that you will have a huge attacks with extra crits on one rare guard, and you could attack. So in my opinion, a great card, and I think that the Great Nature players are happy with this as well. Alright, then we have the one from Murokumo. This one is a sneaky one, because the second ability. But first, let's go into his first ability. So it's once per turn that costs a Soul Blast of 1 and turn something from your G-zone face up. Then you look at the top 7 cards of your deck and you take 2 of them with the same card names as cards you have in the drop zone or Raggard Circle. So you get to your combo pieces, but also you could get like shield value to your hand, like PGs or heal triggers to G-guard with. But most importantly, I think combo pieces. Then the second ability, which is the most interesting ability that this card has. This one is a Shadow Stitch. In the G-zone, when your Vanguard attacks a Vanguard and that attack does not hit, you may Soul Blast 1 and you may call this card to a Vanguard circle. So let's say you go into him first. You flip himself face up, and then you stride into anything else, doesn't matter, something that is the best to work with this combo, which they have few, but doesn't matter. You could even stride into him again. The thing is, when you attack with the Vanguard and the attack does not hit, you can call this to a Vanguard circle. But if you have 2 and you attack with this and the attack does not hit, you can call the other one on the top of this one. You attack again. If the attack does not hit, you call the other one on the top of this one, and you keep doing this because whenever you call the stride on the top of the other stride will go back to the G-zone, which means his skill will become active again. And you could keep doing this process until you run out of soul. So Bustard are giving Murokumo yet another loop, if I'm not mistaken. This was something that was pointed out to me by Eric from Vanguard Insiders. So it's an amazing ability, and I don't know if Bustard designed this card to do this, because it could not do it as a first stride. It could only do it as a second stride because you need 2 copies of this card face in the G-zone. But it's very good ability, and I think that Murokumo players will be very happy with this. Definitely play 2 copies of him and go into him as the first stride, and from that moment on the second stride, if your opponent is sitting on, like, let's say a 5 damage, then this card could just kill them off by having enough soul. Next we have Valios. People have been talking crap about values, and I think that's not right, because I think that this card is really strong, and I will tell you why. First of all, his ability is on attack, which means that you could call out Regards, attack with them, multi-attack with them, and then you attack with this card. When you do that, you counterblast one and you flip something face up from your G-Zone, and then you call as many cards, like 2 for every face-up card you have in your G-Zone. If it's first stride, you call only 2. You call them to the Regard circles, and then you draw the same amount of cards that you just called. So on the first stride, this card is a draw 2. On the second stride, this card is a draw 6. So that's insane. That's insane amount of draws that you could get with this card, which is something that Aqua Force, in my opinion, needed. It's better this skill than something that they could search from the deck, in my opinion, because this is more Aqua Force, and otherwise it would be more Neonectar or Spike or Cure Chronicle, or even Royals nowadays. But it also has a second ability, which activates if you have 2 face-up cards in your G-Zone. What it does is he puts your opponent's Vanguard at 11k, so it's the older values ability, and then your opponent's Vanguard, if they get triggers or something, their power will not go up by triggers or by G-Guardians or by those kind of abilities. Only the shield could go up, but not the power of the Vanguard that your opponent has. So it's not powering up your own Regards, it's just putting the opponent's Vanguard at 11k, and that's it. They will not get any more power. I think it's in a very strong ability, and people are not looking at this card the right way. Especially the draw power that this card creates is insane. Drawing 6 on your second stride is a lot. So, alright, then we have Big Opodaya. This card is great. I think that some people are mistaking how good this card actually is, but again, for the Granblue players, they know how good this card is. It's the perfect setup for your Megiddo, which is your finisher for the clan. Now, what this card does is a counterblast of 1, and you search something from your G-Zone face up. You search your deck for up to 5 cards, you put them in the drop zone, and then you call 2 for every face up card you have in your G-Zone. You give them an extra 5k. That's it. That's the whole skill, and that's the best thing that they could give Granblue, in my opinion, because it's not a finisher, but it's the best setup for their finishers. And you could keep the cards in your hand because you're searching 5, you're putting them to drop zone, and you call 2, so your front row could attack, and could attack with anything you wanted. So it's a great card, in my opinion. Just easy, simple, but really good. Next one is Ichi. So we got Ichi back with a different ability, but it does kind of feel the same. What this card does, it's a counterblast of 1. Again, it's not a counterblast because the older Silent Tome could also, it did need a counterblast to turn herself face up to draw 2. This one also needs a counterblast, which is interesting because you could work around not giving them counterblast. But counterblast 1, turn something from your G-Zone face up, you draw 1 card, and until the end of turn, your opponent cannot use auto abilities on their Guardian circles. So they cannot PG because the PG is an auto ability. They cannot use skills of the G Guardians, but the G Guardians are still 15k. If they put something from their hand or intercept with something that gets ability, that will also not activate. So it's a very strange interaction that it has with the mechanic of the game, because now your opponent would have to you're playing with a different kind of a guard restriction, and your opponent would have to put up like more normal cards from their hand or trigger units just for the shield value and not use their skills anymore. So it's interesting. Then the second ability, or to continue with the ability, all of your units in the front row get an extra 2k for every card you have in your hand. And with the second ability, if this card is face up in the G-Zone, the G-Zone count as cards you have face up in your hand. So that's pretty good. I mean, you could make a huge field, you could attack with it, and your opponent would have to guard those attacks but not use their auto abilities to guard with. So I think it's a pretty good card. It's definitely a finisher by its own, but it does not come close to the combo that Simatom already did with the old Ichi. But it does work against clans that are protect or clans that could guard that attack. So it's giving you another way out or another way to win while you're playing Oracle Think Tank. Next card we have is Munja Lord. Munja Lord still dominates units, but now he dominates from the extra deck of your opponent. So it's once per turn, count +1, turn something face up from your G-Zone. It's an active ability, dominate, and your opponent chooses 2 face-up cards from their G-Zone with power, and they have to call them to the Vanguard circle. Your opponent cannot use their auto abilities, but you can use your auto abilities when you dominate them and you attack with them. And then of course they go back to the G-Zone. So basically your opponent, by you just having this card in your extra deck, or maybe even not having it, your opponent would have to think twice before using a stride, because now you could use that stride ability whenever it attacks. Important thing about this card is the ability that you use, those auto abilities, are only their own attack abilities, so keep that in mind. But again, it's a great card. Even by not playing it, by just having it in the G-Zone, it's enough to let your opponent go crazy. There are some different interactions that this card could do, like with Zerg Dragons when they go back to the G-Zone, like with some cards that could give your field value when they attack, so it's really good. Alright, next one is Gluttony. Gluttony is a card that, in my opinion, went under the radar for most of the players in the community because they were insanely hyped about Bustard. So that's why Gluttony didn't really get much appreciation as he should have gotten. But the Tachikaze players know how good this card is. First, it has the Engorge ability, which is important to add to every Tachikaze stride. Then, when it becomes Engorged, you choose 2 cards from your opponent's rearguards and you retire them. You pay the cost, which is turning something from your G-Zone face up, and you put a total of 5 rearguards or equipped guards from your rearguard circle to the drop zone. And with giving those 5, you put them away, you could restand this unit, but this unit does not lose any drive check. So you could easily get the restand with this card because of the V mechanic now. But again, you could also maybe restand him twice if you combine him with some Excel circles and the Gaia ability that recalled, because his skill is not once per turn, and in my opinion, it should have been once per turn, looking at like the one from Kagero. Because if you look at the one from Kagero, then you look back at this card, the one from Kagero is just mediocre. That's my opinion. So I think this card is way better, and I think that the skill should have been once per turn, or he should have lose a drive check or 2. I don't know. Just let me know what you think. Okay, then G-Zone, once per turn, if this card is face up, you pay the cost, which is a Soul Blast of 1, and you put the top card of your deck as an equipped card to one of your rearguards, and that rearguard becomes Engorged. It's a very good ability. Again, it's a G-Zone ability, so this could work with different strides, but even with himself, if you go into him first, you turn him face up, and then on the second time you attack with him, you could activate the one that you have in your G-Zone, and the second time you go into him, you already have 2 face-up cards of him in your G-Zone, which means that you could get 2 more equipped cards, and with that, you have to discard or retire 2 less, because he said retire 5 rearguards or equipped cards, or just some of them, some of that. Again, it's a great ability in my opinion. Okay, now we have Darkface, Gridora. A lot of people are having mixed feeling about this card. The thing is, you actually sometimes really need Overwhelm, because Overwhelm gives you a huge hand advantage. But this card, the same as Opterundus, is a card that could shut down your opponent's plays. What this card does, it's a count blast of 1, once per turn ability in acts, and you turn a card from your G-Zone face up until the end of your opponent's next turn. Your opponent cannot stand units during their standby phase, nor call other than from hand. Okay, first of all, this does stun the opponent Vanguard. So your opponent needs to ride into a new Vanguard if they want to attack, because it said, and I quote, until the end of your opponent's next turn, your opponent cannot stand units during the standby phase. Okay, so now you understand that you have to rewrite. It's the same as deleting, but just stunning the opponent Vanguard is amazing, because you put them in a weird situation when they have to rewrite into a grade 3 that maybe they don't want to rewrite into. And if they don't have a grade 3, then they can't do anything, because even if they stride, that stride comes in the rest position and it cannot attack because it's already rested. So also important. And on the top of that, nor call other from hand. So that would mean that they could call from hand, but they cannot call by other ways. So so this is pretty amazing. I think that Dark Phase right here is definitely a big interface for some of the clans that really need that extra call and really does not want to restand. I put this card so high in the list because it's something that works great with already having cards like Optirandus, with already having cards like Overwhelm, and with the big finisher that they have, which is Zoa. And if you combine all of those with like Gizeme Colony, then that's insane. But again, this card is not on the same level as Bustard. This is by far the best stride in the whole set, and maybe even the best card. The thing is with this card is there is no limit on how, I don't know how to say it, I would just say it, how stupid Bushiroad were when they created this card. Because the second ability should have been once per turn, and there also should have been some limitation to his first ability. So, two abilities. The first one is understandable, but again insane. You know what Winning Chen does. Like whenever you restand something, you flip something from your G-Zone and give one of your units an extra 5k, and he also gets a 5k. But now with this card, it has almost the same ability, so you could go very fast through your G-Zone. So when your Rearguard stand cost Soul Blast of 1, you turn a card from your G-Zone face up, and until the end of turn, this unit gets the extra drive check. 1 drive check. But that skill is not once per turn. So if you restand 3 times, you get 3 extra drive checks, and you flip 3 cards from your G-Zone. The only thing that costs you is a Soul Blast. So yeah, it's possible to Soul Blast in the Nova Grapplers. You have at least 3 Soul to work with. And if you use those 3 Souls, then this card would get 3 more drive checks, would put them at 6. Then the second ability goes off. At the end of the battle, it attacked. This unit's drive check was 5 or more. It loses 5 drive checks, you discard 3 cards, and you restand this unit. Okay, again, not once per turn. So let's say in the perfect situation, you have a lot of Counter Blasts and Soul Blasts to work with, and you restand 7 Rearguards. That would give you a total of 10 drive checks. You attack, you drive check, 5, then you lose that 5, you restand the Vanguard, you attack again, 5 drive check, you lose those drive checks, and you restand the Vanguard and you attack again. It's the crazy ability, but it's a double-edged sword. And that's when a lot of, I'd say, YouTubers slash people in the community were mistaken on putting this card this high in the list. Which I also put it high in the list because it's really good, but I'm confident that a lot of people will misplay this card. And that's, I will tell you that how. First of all, you do not have that much soul in Nova Grapplers to Soul Blast 7 on your first stride, not even the second stride. Second of all, if you want to Soul Blast 7 to restand 7 Regards, that would mean that you have to flip 7 cards from your G-Zone. And with that, you're killing your G-Zone, because maybe you're not even having 7 strikes. You have to flip G-Guards, you have to flip everything, and you will only put or let the GB8 stay, because the GB8 is the card that you want to go into on the next turn after going to discard. Second thing, if you want to restand this card twice, you drive check 10, then 5, so you drive check 15 cards. And you discard, let's say in that situation, if you want to restand it 3 times, you discard 9 cards. But you drive check 15 cards and discard 9, put you at 6 cards in your hand extra. That's not really that big, but the big thing is that you're also having the triggers. You have stand triggers, you restand some of your regards, you have critical triggers, you have a lot of power, because you just drive check 15 cards. But that will mean that you will deck out. So this card will burn through your deck, burn through your G-Zone, and it is because of that double-edged sword, but you could finish your opponent off. If you say you attack 7 times, then you restand. Also, let's say you restand 7 times and you could attack already like 4 or 5 times, so that's 7 plus 4, that's 11, plus the 3 attacks that this card could do. Let's say from, let's say 10, 15, let's say 14, 13, 14 attacks that you could do with this card easily if you could restand 7. That's insane. For your opponent to have to deal with that, that's insane. So that's why it's so high in the list, as in my opinion one of the, or maybe even the best card in the set. But I don't know how Bushiroad will react to the videos and everybody's talking in the community. Will they make the second ability on this card once per turn, or will they put a kind of a limitation on his first ability, or they would just leave it to the players to go crazy with this card? Like with the hero support that they're getting and with Bobo and stuff, they could just take a lot of damage and go to this card and just finish your opponent off on the first try, and your opponent could do nothing, because there is no way that they have so many cards in their hand to guard. And yeah, it's just insane in my opinion. Right, then we go to the last one in this set. I know it's a long video, but this one is Spike, and I have to talk about it a little bit, but I think I will just read his ability and leave the discussion to the video that I'll make after this video, that will talk about the Spike reveals, and Force 2 also for Spike. So, Shut Down Emperor Violence Ace. First of all, the name, perfect. The unit that I chose, perfect, because this was the triple rare that we have got /SP in the first time that we got support for Spike in the G era, and with the Rising Nova and with Miracle Ace, with Dirty Piccolo and some of the others. Frog Raider, I could call all of the names if you want me to. But it's an act ability. Once per turn, you pay the cost, which is a counterblast of 1, and you turn a card from your G-Zone face up. You draw the same number of cards as face-up cards you have in the G-Zone, and until the end of turn. This unit gets, in acts, Soul Blast 1, give one of your units extra 10k until the end of turn. First ability. Second ability is an auto ability on Vanguard. When your opponent Guardians becomes 2 or more, cost counterblast of 1, put a card, a rare card from your rare card circle to the soul, and you can call a card from your hand to the rare card circle. Okay, if you guys are not familiar with Spike, then I could understand that you say, oh yeah, it looks like a very good card, call cards from your hand if your opponent would keep guarding. Yeah, you could do some stuff, but again, it costs a counterblast. Don't forget that. But again, I would just leave the discussion about this card to the other video, because there is so much that you can do with this card. The draw power, thanks Bushi. The calling from the hand, perfect for your charge unit. The power that you give, do you guys remember Frog Raider? Having like 4 or 5 soul, give 50k to the Frog Raider and restand him with every attack that you make. then you could say, well, yeah, but my opponent would not go and put 2 cards on the Guardian Circle. Well, that doesn't matter, because you could multi-attack without this card, but with this card, the multi-attack becomes even easier, and your opponent would have to think twice before putting 2 cards there. And the amount of power and the draw engine that this card could give, it's perfect. So I think it's an amazing card. I'm very happy with this card for Spike. And that's actually it for this video. I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and hope to see you on the next video, which is the video that we'll talk about the Spike reveals and how good is every card and / mechanic that we have got, and how will that help Spike to become a better clan. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time.